Now, without further ado, let's welcome to the ring Josh the Punk Penzell and Mel the Magnificent Milloway. Let the games begin.
Let's start with some warm-up music. How's about?
Lights are shining down the stage, two heroes ready to engage. Josh and Mel, their spirits bright, ready now to fight the fight. Boom, boom, here they come. Josh and Mel, the chosen ones.
Yeah, can we hear it? Are we good?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Awesome. By the way, Suno is the name of this app if y'all want to get it. SUNO.
They're the ones who set the theme.
You can go create your own songs right now.
Legends of this story told. Boom, boom, here they come.
I feel like we're getting good. Yeah. All right. Well, hey everyone. Appreciate it. It's still playing in the background here. We wanted to play some warm-up music. Well, hey, welcome. I'm going to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, Mel Milloway. Mel, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well, and Josh and I have gotten to collaborate together over like the last few weeks and do a little session at DevLearn, and yeah, it's been amazing and a really great partnership. So I'm excited to share some of the stuff we've created together.
Yeah, it's awesome. So here's what we're going to do is we have 6 different challenges that we sort of gave ourselves. And here's the way we did it. Uh, Mel went because she's works with Amazon AWS, right? So Party Rock, which is, if it's not an app you're familiar with, an AI tool, she did a bunch of work in there. And essentially then what I tried to do was try to create a solution in a different tool. And what we're going to do is show you all these different solutions that we've created based on the problem that we encountered. And so what we want you to do is be very interactive with us and share with us as we go through. Now, usually I would wait to the end, Mel, and I would say, hey, all this stuff we're going to send out at the end. But because we did this before and because I know we get this question a ton, I wanted to first figure out how could we solve the problem, right, of sending out resources afterwards? Or how could we solve the problem of making sure folks who, accessibility or whatever could get feedback during the session? So, everyone, I'd love for really quickly, let's get this chat going. What are some ways you would solve that problem? And maybe some thoughts on how you would solve it if you had AI at your disposal. I want to get some ideas. So how might you solve this problem of sending out resources to all of your folks? And this is not one Mel was prepared for. Danielle says send out an email. But Mel, how would you do it? You know where I'm going. Yeah.
Yes.
Danielle says send out an email.
Yeah, Danielle said send out an email. Like thinking about how could we like automate that ahead of time by using like triggers. Like you could use something like Zapier maybe, or I don't know, like
So yeah, how do we solve this problem of making sure we send out all the resources beforehand or during so that after the webinar, y'all don't get stuck, right? Well, I'll tell you one thing I did. I'm going to put the link in there right now so that you don't even have to wait to the end. I created a GPT, right? I created an agent using ChatGPT. You can go click that through. It has every single link, every single solution you're about to see in it. So rather than asking us or waiting for links, you can go play right now by talking with it. And we ask you that if you run into issues with it, right? Because this is what we're trying to do. You let me know, you come back and we figure it out. Cool. And I'll just say, Sean, if your organization blocked it, I totally get it. Maybe on your phone or on a personal device, you could be able to get access to it. And of course,
yeah.
we will still send out the recording and the stuff. I'm just offering that right now. Mel?
Yeah. And Sean, stick around because Josh has a way if your organization blocks AI resources to help you around that in a legitimate way.
In a legitimate, okay. But Mel, let's get started here.
Yeah.
First problem that we were facing, right, or that you challenged us to face is this idea of learning just not hitting the mark. So do you want to talk about the challenge? Talk about what how you thought about it, And while we're doing that, I'd love people in the chat to talk about, how would they solve this problem? Your learning experiences are falling flat. They're not good, right? And generally they're not meeting the needs. Mel, you go.
And this is, would you be able to screen share for the
Yeah.
app that we
Do you
have?
want me? Well, I was going to ask, folks how they did it, but yeah, let's go ahead and share the app. So we'll get into it and we'll probably be sharing for the rest here. So can
Perfect.
everyone see my screen?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay,
So
perfect.
for this particular problem that we're trying to solve, first I'll preface this with like Party Rock it's a resource that you can use to build like AI powered web apps. And so you use these things called widgets, like a chat widget, like image widget, a content generation widget to make your own app, and you write a prompt that like creates the app for you. All you have to have is an AWS account. It's free. Up until like a certain point, it'll tell you like when it's not free. But essentially, the first one that I'm focusing on here is a problem I was trying to solve is coaching myself and coaching others on how to write learning objectives and write them in a way in which helps us to be able to align content of a course and assessment items to these. So what I did was create this learning objective writing practice app. And so what you do is you put in the terminal learning objective that you created, and then an enabling learning objective. And then the app actually gives you feedback on how to make improvements to that. And so what it does is it essentially takes the inputs that you put in and then compares them with each other to make sure that they work together, and then gives you feedback based on what you write. And so something that I prepared ahead of time was a terminal objective that we can put into here so we can see this in action, and then also an enabling objective. So right now, Party Rock requires you to fill in all the fields to play. But that doesn't mean that will be the case in the future. They have a roadmap on their actual like site, so you can see that. Something else that's pretty nifty about this too is you can add in text boxes like above parts of your apps to give more context. So for me, it was important for people using this to understand like the purpose of a terminal objective, enabling objective, and just some little instructions on like how to do it too.
So we're really talking about how to solve the problem of objectives lining up and maybe training junior engineers or whomever, right, how to actually write decent learning objectives, right?
Yeah.
So what would be a learner objective that we can put in here to show everyone?
I have one ready for us.
Sure, unless
Anyone
anyone
has
else
one?
wants to pop one in.
So mine is, by the end of this course, learners will be able to demonstrate and apply proper safe lifting techniques. I can't see how far we're at here.
You can go. You can keep
I'll put it
talking.
in the chat. To prevent injuries, ensuring compliance with occupational health and safety standards in a warehouse environment. That's like a really loaded one. Just, yeah.
Cool. And to answer the question where someone said, when do you have junior engineers writing learning objectives? I think it depends what they're engineering. They're engineering learning requirements. Maybe it's just a different word. Okay, so we put that one in, and should I go ahead and run it?
So we have to put the enabling one in next.
Oh.
And so we're going to start with conditions. So we're going to say, given a description of an improper lifting technique, and then we'll go to task. Learners will explain how the technique could lead to common lifting related injuries, such as such as back strains. And then we'll put in the next box with 80% accuracy.
I just have to type that. Okay, good.
Yeah, and then we'll hit play, and then
We'll hit
it'll
the
start to
play
give us.
button here.
Yep.
And so
Perfect.
essentially, if I'm just saying this correctly, right, you've essentially put some prompts on the back end of these. So someone puts in some information. Now it's going to give me feedback on the terminal objective, excuse me.
Yeah. And it will also give you feedback on the enabling ones. And the thing about AI for everyone to keep in mind is like the power of this is in the power of what your knowledge is. So it's basically using this as kind of like a partner to help you identify gap areas that you may have that you didn't really realize at first. And you already have the expertise to determine like what to actually change with your learning objectives using this and what not to, because we all know like with Gen AI, all of this information is coming from somewhere and it may not always be the most accurate information possible. So it's really the power is on you. And that's like also part of the reason why AI is not going to take your jobs anytime soon is because you're the piece of the puzzle that is the power in AI. So if we look at some of this feedback, we can figure out like what to use and what not to use based on our own knowledge.
And what I really like about what we're doing here, right, and I think this will be throughout, it shouldn't do the work for us. It should help us think through the work. So this is almost reflecting back to us some stuff, right, in order for us to make a better decision. And we don't have to demonstrate it, but your follow-up here
Oh
that you
yeah.
created, right, was putting in the entire course outline and the enabling and terminal objectives, and
Yes.
then getting feedback from the learner, from the expert. Do you want to talk about why you did this and then this cool thing at the bottom here?
Yeah, and I'll post in the chat the one that's like art pre-filled in here in case anyone wants to see it. But for this one, basically what I did was this is like a next step after you create the learning objectives and you write the course outline. So what I did here was you upload the actual like course outline and put in the learning objectives, and then it analyzes the information as an expert in instructional design and an expert as a learner, and it gives you the feedback from both perspectives. And then you can look at that and say, okay, here's tweaks that I want to make based on that. So it's basically making sure that your course content outline aligns with your learning objectives. So it's
I
making
love
sure
that.
that those all come together.
So Mel had already created this when I got it. And so I was trying to think, how can I take this and build on what she's created to show where we could go in the future, right? And actually where we are. So I used an AI tool called bolt.new, and I'll type that in here, okay, to create my own computer program. And by the way, I have a Master of Fine Arts in Theater, so none of this was used with programming. This was all done typing with English. And what I did, inspired by that, is say, hey, how could I integrate AI even more into this and make this even more of a useful tool? So I took that idea of being able to add objectives, but I also took this idea of being able to upload course content from the very beginning. So for instance, here's a document on a billing policy. And let's say I wanted this to become a training. First, what I did is build something where I could hit this generate. And what it's actually doing is going to OpenAI on the back end using an API key. And it's going to look at all that and create learning objectives from this content. Now, I could do it in reverse as well. As you see at the top, I could add objectives. But what I want to point out here is coming from an idea of abundance rather than scarcity, in saying, when I saw what Mel was doing, how could I take this even further? Not how would I do the same thing? And what are ways I could solve this problem I might not even thought about? So for instance, becoming an engineer or working with a AI engineer to build something. So here, it started to break these down. Now, some of them aren't great, but I can have AI look at this, right? And now evaluate each individual one, help me make each individual learning objective stronger. And then there's an analyze objective alignment here that does the same thing Mel's did, which is take an entire course and then check all of the learning objectives. And what you'll notice here is I didn't do this as a way to replace writing learning objectives. It takes way too long for that. The idea here is to be able to help individuals write better learning objectives so I can apply the changes, etc.
And I have
So
one
this was me building a custom computer program to solve this problem, right?
And I have one comment, just Josh, on what I love about this use case is like you'll often see in organizations people who created learning in the past, but they didn't document like the learning objectives and things like this. But if you can distill the course into text, you can put it through something like this that Josh created and have a foundation to kind of work backwards from, to figure out like what could the learning objectives been, and then you can use a resource like made I'm gonna butcher his name, but Mager's book, like, or something like that, to help you verify alongside AI. So I definitely recommend like using using more than just AI, especially if you're not familiar with writing learning objectives.
And I'll just say one other thing. This computer program I built, which was deployed and done all with English, right? With bolt.new. It does use my API key on the back. So if it stops working one day, it's because too many of you were using it and I was paying for it. But the code, the program, all free. All right. We spent a ton of time on that first one, Mel. I want to keep going because we have so much. So the second problem that I think we want to really hit, everyone has data. I got a ton of data. I got a ton of surveys. How the heck do I like present that, dive through it, analyze it? Mel, you talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to go a little bit more quickly through these. This one, in particular, a problem that I was trying to solve in the past is we used to have to work with a whole analytics team to go through and categorize sentiments for our learning survey results. So basically, it would be we would have like thousands of survey questions to sort through, and we wanted to quickly see like what were the biggest themes in those, so that we could really dive deeper into those themes and inspect them more closely. And so what I did here was created an AI powered app where you can upload a CSV file. You can also upload like other types of files, doesn't have to be CSV. And then when you press play, it will go through and give you the themes. The one thing to keep in mind about using Gen AI is it's really bad at like counting. So you definitely want to make sure, like, if you need exact numbers and data and things like that, that you dive deeper and analyze things. But this should give us like at least a picture of what the feedback was and areas of improvement based on these survey results that we just inputted in here. So we can see here some of the areas of improvement and positive themes that are coming out here. And then in the box below this one here, you can see like a count of these things in buckets of like what's positive and negative. And so here's where you would want to dive deeper, is like the number. But you can see it's pulling examples from the survey results and giving us a summary. And then there's like this little chat down here that you can use to go back and forth and talk about the actual documents you uploaded in here if you wanted to. Like you could ask it, like, I'm gonna let Josh ask it.
Yeah, and I really like this part, right? To me, this is the cool thing, is after that, you can keep talking to it. And what I really like about in general, Party Rock, is actually you can have a chat and the chat can cascade to the next thing, right? So through a chat interface, you can change what's going on after it. I took a slightly different approach. So I used Claude.ai, which is a competitor, and I created a prompt that I use for a whole bunch of stuff. And in order to use pre-created prompts in Claude, you create these projects. So this is my interactive infographic prompt. The prompt I did put into the GPT, but actually I might need to add it again. So don't worry, I can't give you a link because I can't give links to GPTs in this, but I'll give, or Claude agents. But what this does is take anything and visualize it. So for the sake of this, I could use the data. And what's cool about Claude and the way, and the reason I love using it is, and by the way, I don't have to give it instructions because it already knows what to do, right? Is that not only is it going to create all this code, which is really cool, it's then going to show me, right, the visual that it's just coded. which some of you might be already familiar with. So I could download this code and put it into my own system, right? If I'm dealing with whatever. Or I could simply have this, right? Publish it. And what's super cool is I can send this out to everyone now, right? And even cooler is you can hit, or just like you can with Party Rock, actually, there's this remix button. So I can hit that, reproduce it, and then I can make my own edits to it. So for instance, if I sent this over to my team and they said, what would be more interesting is if it focused more on X, Y, and Z. Now, instead of going back to you and having you do it, right, they can take a couple seconds and do it themselves, right? For instance, I want to really focus on, okay, and now it's going to start and I can make my own edits, etc. So I like this because it visualizes all that stuff, Mel, that you're sort of doing, right? And I
Yeah.
find sometimes that can be really easy, an easy way to absorb the information, but also to share it.
Yeah, and I love this approach too because like I had a recent example where someone I know wanted to create an email for their stakeholders on like how well a training went, and like this is something that could help to be able to craft that, or to write in like a weekly business report or monthly business report if you do those sorts of things, or yeah, anything like that. Like this could be something that's helpful to show your results.
Yeah. So I want to just make sure I know we're getting tons of questions too, or I think we have some, Kristen, and I don't have the question thing up. So if we do get a bunch and we need to start answering them, let me know.
We
But let's
do
get,
have 5 ready and waiting for you guys. If you would like to pop on over, if you'd like me to announce them, I can, not a problem. So you don't have to switch screens.
let's get to the next one first, and
Okay,
let's then do it because then we'll be halfway through.
got it.
So this is another great one, Mel. Markdown format, WCAG standards, accessibility. Talk about what you did here, because I think like so many folks run into this issue.
Yeah, so I think one of the really cool benefits of Gen AI is we can use it to analyze accessibility. And so for this one, something I worked a lot on previously was knowledge base articles and scaling them to the business. So how can we make sure everyone can write accessible knowledge base articles? So what I created here is one for the specific markdown language I use it not in my knowledge base at work, but just like in a knowledge base. And what it does is it analyzes your Word document, converts it into accessible markdown, and it gives you tips on how you can improve your accessibility, not just from like a headings perspective and like, you have to have your H1 and then you have H2, but also like plain language and just general like WCAG 2.2 that I called out here. I think that might be the most recent like standard, but yeah, you can have it go to whatever is out there on the internet related to this specific model. So if it's WCAG or something else that you're using, you can give it those parameters and it will give you feedback based on that.
Yeah. I did, I saw this and I said, I thought ChatGPT would be a very simple way to go about solving this. And so for me, I did a similar thing, but I built it onto ChatGPT into a pre-existing one. So I'll just go ahead and upload the document that we had. And similarly, it should do a similar sort of thing to yours, just in a different format. I want to point out one of the cool things, right, is it can do a search on the upcoming on all the WCAG things, right? Because it has that up to date. So don't just have to give it all those standards previously, right? If stuff changes, this can change with it. I also like how in depth it can go. It'd be interesting, Mel, for us to compare and see. I bet one misses something and the other misses something else, So yeah, it's literally going to go through every single one of the WCAG, you know, issues and make sure it's fully audited. And then I think it's going to take it and provide it to us in Markdown as well. So there were a couple things that that was how I attacked this problem.
Oh, I love how it prioritized them too. Like the changes.
Yeah, and again, for everyone out there, because there will be some questions, we're using ChatGPT sometimes or Party Rock, but essentially you can do all of this in whichever platform because it all runs on, you know, prompts. And you can get all of those prompts and recreate them. So Jeremy had this idea. Jeremy was asking, I'm going to go to some of the Q&A right now, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see y'all. It's a cool idea to use GPT to manage a session or webinar. Is that something that can be done with Copilot? Because we're a Microsoft shop. Absolutely. Right. When you to build those custom things like I built to send out to you, you have to have a specific version of Microsoft Copilot, but it is doable. And so that's the way I would solve that problem. Are there any concern about sharing course content with third parties and AI? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not, we're trying to use content that right now is not proprietary. So, OSHA content, this is great for certain things that are publicly available. It's great for. If you have if your legal team is okay with it, right, then use whatever they say. I'm sure you have data privacy issues already, right? You have data privacy classification, excuse me, that you can already count on for what to use and when not to use it. And so, I think those are some of the things to lean on. Minika, it's good to see you. And we're asking Party Rock versus Bolt. So Party Rock I'll go ahead and share my screen yet. And Mel,
Oh,
you use Party Rock the most. So is there
yeah. So
anything
yeah,
yeah,
with Party Rock, with Party Rock. So Party Rock is it's a web app, right? And so the thing that is similar across all of these sort of apps is they're using a specific AI model. And in Party Rock, you can select what model you're using. I believe I'm on Claude Sonnet. I think it's like 2.5 right now. And so these are all kind of just like web apps that are utilizing like the API to these models. So that there's not, the only thing that's different is kind of the interactions, because Claude, like Josh had shown, is basically you're working right in Claude. These are using Claude. They're using Claude's models. They're just using it in a way where you can create like your own apps. If you go to oh yeah, there. So you can see a Claude's 3.5 sonnet. So that's where you can actually select your model. If Josh were in here editing it, you could change the model, and different models have different strengths. So there's like models that you might want to use for images. There's models that you might want to use for creative text. And there's also like very specific things that you can do within these. So you'll see like there's like a temperature setting, and there's like a top P, and those things are going to control the variability of the responses that you get. So like if you want wild responses, like super creative responses, you're going to turn that like temperature like all the way up, and it's going to go off kilter. Like, but if you want to have something for like technical writing, you want to keep your temperature low. So it's things like that
and
yeah.
yeah, and I would say don't worry about that right now.
Yeah.
Seriously, but I think what you're pointing out is this lets me build these sort of web apps very quickly, as you just saw. And then on the back end, I'm editing all this stuff, right? So I'm
Yeah.
editing the prompts, I'm editing the model. With Bolt, and there are others like this, it is building a computer program for me. So instead of it creating this sort of AI cascading thing that's very specific, this is sort of green fields. It can do anything. It's literally coding a brand new computer program for me right now, right? So that's the difference there, Minika. What types of survey questions? I'm not sure these were open-ended, I think, Melissa, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be any types of survey questions. We used fake data, obviously, in this case. How do you manage so the next one was, how do you manage Claude token limitations? You have multiple accounts. That's the way I solve that. But yeah, So by the way, look, it just created us a program, right? And so that's the difference here, Minika. Does the app work in any language? I don't know. Does Party Rock work in any language? I know ChatGPT and all of them will, and it wouldn't be hard to change it, Daniel. But yeah, I don't know right off.
I believe it's it works better with English. When I did a quick Google search, it came up as like primarily English, but I think you'd have to probably dive a little deeper into that.
Cool. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. Markdown creator, which doc options can be uploaded? Was it a doc, a PDF?
Yeah,
Mel?
CSV, PDF, Word doc. I think there's maybe like 3 others. When you go into the field, you can see what kind you can upload. It'll tell you. And they're
Yeah.
always expanding that too. So definitely keep checking back because like it's a product that's being worked on a ton.
Let's come back to Gretchen's question about scrubbing for stuff. And then what do I do? Do I type in the prompt asking me to say, yeah, I would just, so whoever's asking, how do I use this chat GPT I gave you? Just ask it for links, ask it questions, just talk to it like you would a TA. And we'll come back to Gretchen's question. And if it doesn't work, by the way, let us know. Just means that I made a mistake. And we'll come back to Gretchen's question at the end. Okay, competitive intelligence. And I think this is less about sales, right, Mel? And this is more about me keeping relevant with what the competitors are doing in my space. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the problem that I was trying to solve, I was working at a startup in customer education. So all the learning that we were doing was on a product and it was facing externally to teach people about the product. And so what I wanted to do, like as a part of my role, is understand what are our competitors like in similar fields doing so that I can see like where our gaps are that we may want to be doing the same thing. So anyone have a SaaS product that you would want to put in here? Like Zoom is a SaaS product. So like anyone in the chat put in one and we'll look it up.
I'm putting in NetSuite. Is that okay?
Sure. I mean, all right. So it's coming up with our competitor products here and it's showing us some information. One thing that AI also doesn't do really well is reference and give sources. So some of these sources may be made up, they may not be, they may be old. So that's another thing you want to check for because it doesn't do well at knowing where things are on the internet. Yeah, so we have like Workday, financial management, lots of what were some of the other ones up there? I saw SAP.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to have someone who works here tell us if this is all correct, but there you go. SAP, Oracle, which I thought owned it, but maybe I'm wrong. Microsoft,
Yeah, but
Infor.
that's another thing with like the hallucinations. Like it may not understand the difference between like a company they've acquired or a company that they used to be called. So it may put things like that in, and that's something else you have to check for. And then you can see there's some strategies analysis here. So it shows basically like what the competitors are doing in the learning space, whether they have like communities or different things like that, so that you can get a better idea. And of course, like the whole purpose of this is to help you ask better questions and see if these things actually do exist and verify that and then do something with the information.
Cool. Yeah. And I think that discussion at the end is the important thing, right? And again, I think one of the values here is not that I can do this, it's how quickly I can do this in order to respond to it so that I can get many ideas coming out of this as possible. And generally speaking, we shouldn't expect it's going to give me 100% right answer. We should expect it might spur another thought for us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I did a similar thing. I just decided to use ChatGPT. For me, that was the simplest way because I do want to have that chat. So again, a prompt just like you had cascading ones. I just built it in. So I'm going to say NetSuite as well. As you may or may not know, you probably do, ChatGPT does have the function to search the internet, but sometimes you have to tell it specifically to search. So I always suggest, and look, it's coming up with basically the same ones. I always suggest that you tell it explicitly to search the internet if you want it to do that. So the other thing just for me is sometimes I don't want to make a decision. It's cognitively overloading to like make a decision on this. So I might say something like you decide, right? Which allows me to take the cognitive load off, them respond, right? And then I can go back or reply again, right? I think not enough people, by the way, realize the power of stopping this. Like, I don't need any more. I know, right? I know it's not going to give me what I want. And then editing it, you decide so long as it's valuable or whatever, right? And send again. So that trick for me is a way of sort of, you know, they're not going someplace that I want them to go. So I stop and I do it again. So there you go. Cool. All right. Next one. Oh, this was fun. Can I make SCORM packages not using Storyline or Lectora or anything?
And I really wish I would have done XAPI because people were asking about this at DevLearn. So for this particular one, like in the past, a problem that we had was we would build like web-based experiences, and they would need to be tracked, but we weren't necessarily using XAPI at that point. So one way to do that is through SCORM 2004 third edition. You can get granular data. So the idea here is you can put in a website title, button, and the content, if you will, and then it will build you like the HTML page, and it will have like a little button when you hit complete to be able to send data over. And so this is more of like a concept, like thinking through if there's some sort of web-based thing that you want to track. It's just showing you that like, hey, like this is something that you can do, and it's going to put together the package for you. Josh has done this in so much of a better way, I think. So I'm excited for him to share his with this one. It's just going to give you the code and you have to put it together. Then you can put it up on SCORM Cloud and test it if you want. And yeah, so.
So there's nothing about better, because I think one of the things is, no, I think this is important for us using AI. So long as you come at things from a sense of abundance and not scarcity, meaning I have every possibility in the world versus I'm limited. And as long as you're using AI in some capacity, you're doing it right, right? And I think the point here, Mel, is like you created something. I went off and created something else in inspiration of that. And I think everyone on here will go and create something else because everything we're providing is essentially open source. The prompts are available, the code's available, et cetera. So I took it just a step further. And at first I thought I could do this in ChatGPT. And then I thought, you know what? There's just too many aspects here. So again, I went and built a program. Here it is. So I built a program, same sort of idea. But again, I always think, what's the way I can reduce my workload to reduce my cognitive overload at the top so that I can respond, because that's what I'm better at. And so I could say something like, we'll say the topic is Gen AI, right? Instead of me filling content in like you did, I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if AI could generate that for me? So again, using a tool to create a computer program that then solves issues for me. And by the way, this is sort of an in-process one, but I was able to publish it. And again, it uses my API in the back. So if you keep using it, warning. But here it created everything in Markdown. And then going to your point, I wanted to say, what if I want to do it in these other formats? And I didn't want to. Yours, you were really learning about SCORM. You were learning the code behind it. And I just said, why learn it? I'll have someone else. So anyway, I chose whichever SCORM X API. Then I could choose whether I wanted a button or a quiz, because I thought that was an addition that could happen. And then, of course, do I want AI to generate it or not? So let's say I'm going to do the quiz. We'll do an AI generated quiz. Let's see a preview of it. Here's the quiz it created, right? and then I can hit generate package, and it just downloaded into a SCORM package. So, and of course, someone's going to get that and tell me the SCORM package doesn't work. But, the point isn't that. It's that this thinking about making this. And the tool I used to make this was Replit, similar to bolt.new, just another one, just like Claude, ChatGPT, etc. Right. And by the way, people are saying, do you find Party Rack apps are better than ChatGPT or better than Claude? And my answer is they're all great, right? I feel like I have different hiring pools, right? Like sometimes I have my grads from this place, and sometimes I have my things from that, right? These are all my hiring pools, the way I think about it, Mel. How do you choose?
Yeah,
Or what do you do?
even though I'm showing mostly Party Rock apps, I do use ChatGPT a lot more in like my day to day. Like typically, like I'll build a Party Rock app for a recurring problem that I have, so that I can keep reusing that app and not have to um to go back to ChatGPT. Or it's something where I might have multiple elements, like I might have like a need for like images like that are on the side, like seeing the things like all together make more sense. Like that's when I might use something like this.
You want it visually
Like
played
I
out,
yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, I think everything is different. And by the way, I'll just mention how you can think about this. This chat GPT that I made, that lets you ask it questions. I found myself making those a lot, right, for my webinars. So I created one that helps me create them, if that makes sense. Like it's a web buddy to help me create web buddies. So this thing, right, I put in transcripts and whatever, it helps make a prompt. I put that prompt in. So I just wanted to, you were talking about cascading and how to sort of do all that.
Yes.
That's how I think through this, right? Is let me reduce work that is the hard work, and then I can respond and I'm editing and doing all that stuff. So, um, all right, let's do the role play ones. Is that the last one we have? Is the role play? Oh, the STL role play. I think that is our last one.
It's the
No?
and no well, and your AI, local AI
Oh, so let's get into that actually. We're getting questions about
data
the
concern.
security and the data, right? I can't run that. What about data going up? What about that? So I thought there must be a way to solve that. And as you looked, when we looked at this, by the way, in the models in the back, we saw there were a million different models, and some of them are free, and some of them are small enough to run on a computer. So I thought, why don't I solve that problem by running a local LLM, meaning a local version of like a chat GPT, but a smaller one, not as good, but it does the job, right? So for instance, I can't turn off the internet right now to show you that this is working, but this is something that I put together. And again, I can't give you the link because this runs on my computer, but I'll give you the code if you want. And this lets me talk to an AI on my local computer. You can see it takes time. See, it's not perfect, but it can still do it. And the other thing I've added in, so hello, how can you help me today? I've added in a way to upload files, right? Can you check this against WCAG compliance, for instance?
And Josh, can you remind me, is Mistral, is that open source?
All of these are open source. Mistral is a French one. There are a million different open source models. Go online and figure them out. Which one is best for you or you like using? But I have 4 I've put in here. But essentially, this is something if you were to go ask ChatGPT right now, how can I load Mistral onto my computer? It can help you do. If you don't want to do that, I'll send you the code. And as you can see, by the way, it does take time because it's running on my computer and there's a lot of other stuff running here. But this is a Mac M1. It's a laptop. So I just suggest this in the sense that you can do stuff, right, without going out to the internet. You might have to get approval from your IT team, but theoretically, as long as it can go on your computer, it's not going anywhere. No models are being trained, no data's going anywhere, nothing. So yeah, and I'm sure I'll get questions about that, but here are some of the free models out there. And they're made by the same folks, right? So there you go. All right. Questions. Let's stop doing questions. So Gretchen asked, what are your docs? Before I'm going to just take a couple more questions. And then we'll go back and do the last fun stuff. So what are you doing to your docs before you put them in the AI to guard client content? Do you scrub? Either don't do it. I do something like what I just showed you, right? We get client permission explicitly. Even if you scrub, which I've created apps to try to help me scrub, right? You're going to miss something. So best option is figure out what you can do. If you need, do it on your own computer. And
Yeah.
Lori, I think we already answered yours. Will any of this relate back to ELB AI dev tools? For this specific workshop, we're not talking about ELB tools specifically. We're sharing publicly available tools and trying to help you think through how you could use some of these things in a broader context. If you go use any of the specific ELB tools like the AI Studio or Micro Builder and they have AI built in, the same concepts here will apply, right? The same idea of how do I approach this. But this is not specific to AI, to ELB tools. Happy to pitch those at any point you want, but we're trying to share information, not gatekeep. Kevin, is Olama Mac only? I don't think so. I don't know. I know you can run local models on Windows. I just don't have a Windows computer to test it against. And then one other person asked, if I created a GPT like I sent to y'all, how long is the link active? I don't know if there's a deadline on the links, but you can choose how public and how long you want it for, I think. And you can also delete it after some time. But again, imagine this is today. So some of this is in a year, what other features are going to be out there? Like if I can build computer programs now like this, and I have no programming skills, what does that mean for what you can start doing in a year from now? Right? And so I think that's the thing to think about, not the tool, but the mindset. Do you have anything to add about that, Mel?
Yeah, I think in the words of Miss Frizzle, get messy, take chances, make mistakes. Just get your hands on the AI tools for fun. Even Josh and I were just talking about one of the things that I created was a Party Rock app to build 3D printable files for my 3D printer. I have 3D printers and like laser cutters, like it's a hobby of mine. And so I wanted to see like, oh, what could I actually have it like build 3D things? And you can. It doesn't work really well, but yeah, just do things even if it's not related to your work. Like there are other use cases related to your hobbies, recipes. Like I've seen people take pictures of their fridge and upload it to ChatGPT and say, make a recipe from what I have in my fridge. So yeah.
My favorite example, personal example, and I'll share it. And this person is on the call they write storybooks for their child and then have them printed off and bound. When she said, she's like, oh yeah, my kid, it's Minika, by the way, so I hope you don't mind me calling you out. When she said, oh, my kids met Spider-Man, Batman, da-da-da, I was like, wow. I had not even thought about the idea of instead of buying all these books, right? Which, by the way, you should still buy books. They're great. But in some cases, spending that money to like make a personal book. So, and personal songs, maybe, right? Road trip songs. Okay, I want to make sure we get through this. There was one more challenge we had, which was the role play, right? And how to basically simulate a role play. right? And in customer service, perhaps.
Yeah, so this one, this was the most like popular one at DevLearn. So I'm excited for Josh to share his solution too. So the problem we're trying to solve here is in the past, we wanted to do like realistic role play in my organization. And so what I did here was I uploaded a billing policy to Party Rock, and I asked it to reference the billing policy to create a chat between yourself and Jane, or maybe you're Jane, I can't quite remember. But basically, you're going to start the chat, and you're going to see what happens. So you are the customer support associate, and customer Jane is reaching out, and they want to cancel their subscription, but they have a question around canceling this. And so basically, in this, you're going to say like, hey, like let's say no, they will not have access, because that's the wrong answer. No, you will not have access, I guess.
I'll say it in a way that any customer service person would not say it.
Yeah, so now it's so you can see in the feedback summary, the feedback is going to give you feedback on if you answer the question correctly. And so this is where you can see like there's an opportunity. So you said that you won't have access, but they're still asking. So you could just say no. And you can also give it other parameters like being polite and using etiquette, but I didn't put that in there. And then it's giving you feedback saying, yes, it was not correct based on the policy. So you can see there, the second time around, it's giving you the feedback that you were looking for.
Yeah, it's awesome. So mine's not built out because it's still using technology that's out there, but it's something I want you to start thinking about. Not a tool for that we sell. And of course, my Google account doesn't want to let me come in here. All right. So if you haven't heard of HeyGen or these sort of avatar creating tools, it's really nuts, right? I can create fake videos of myself, all sorts of stuff, right? I'll show you one real quickly, if it'll play and if you can hear it. If I look really, really weird, it's because I'm totally fake. This image was created from 12 photos of me. Is this not crazy? Could you hear that, Mel? Yeah, so that literally was completely fake. I gave it 12 photos, it created the image, and then it did it, right? Narrated it. We can create videos, but the really cool thing that's going on now are these interactive avatars. And this is where I want you to start thinking about it. I can't show it because it would require me to go into a Zoom meeting. But imagine that you could have a chat with any one of these avatars live. So if I was to pull up Chat with Vicky right now, it will literally come up and start having a conversation with me as though I'm talking to someone on a Zoom meeting. And at first, when I showed this at DevLearn, you couldn't edit it. But since then, you can actually start to play and give it your own knowledge base. So I could, for instance, Mel, and we should play with this, maybe it'll be a follow-up, take the stuff you created in yours, put it in here, and have a back-to-back talking conversation. And I want you to think about that from that, again, that abundance point of view, like, wow, we just jumped past like actors and all of that, voice simulation, chat simulation, to like video simulation. It's not perfect, but we already know it's AI anyway. So I can't show this one, unfortunately, but what I will show is a video of me talking, another one, to see how good some of this can look. Again, this is AI generated. I recorded 30 seconds of myself right here in this corner, and this is what it produced by me typing in text. A lot of folks ask, how should I integrate AI into my learning program? But that's the wrong question. Instead, ask, how would you solve problems behind your learning program if you had every resource in the world? In other words, instead of just putting all my content into a GPT and asking it to teach learners something, we might want to make a student GPT and then require our learners to teach that AI student. So it's created that from text. And so I add that because you can think about starting to create simulations. We have a tool called Rehearsal where you could go through and create, right, scenarios instantly without having to record. Again, not perfect. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I know we have questions. I just wanted to show a couple quick things of the fun stuff. One, here was your 3D maker that you made personally, right, Mel? So can you I'm gonna say a bagel. I don't
Yeah.
know why.
Go ahead.
And this, I assume, is gonna create a whole abstract 3D rendering and stuff.
Yeah, so it can't
Yep.
like interpret the code and visualize the code, but it's interpreting what it thinks like you want it to look like. And then the code on the left-hand side here, you can run the code and it will actually create the STL for you. And an STL is a file for like 3D printing, and then you bring it into like your software to print it.
This is one I just created. I come from a theater background. We used to have a playwriting practice where you would take a play and you draw it, abstract it out, and then you'd write a different play based on it. I wondered if I could do the same sort of thing in AI. So what this does is it actually takes a picture or a story, creates a story abstraction image out of it. Then I have the AI that doesn't know anything about this interpret the structure. And then based on that, it presents an idea for a play. And then I can talk with that idea. So I might say, I don't know, sounds difficult to do on stage, whatever it is. And as I'm talking to it, it begins to fill out the rest, the play outline, etc. And until I get to the very end where I have a complete play. So that's something I've been playing with. Again, could I make AI essentially creative? The last one I show all the time, and I have to show it here because I always do. Same with making a program. I said, what more data can I capture? What other data could I capture that would be useful? And one of the things I wondered is why we don't capture eye tracking data, right? Now I'm going to see if I can move this screen over because unfortunately I'm looking at the wrong screen and so this isn't going to work. But let me stop sharing. But this will literally start tracking my eyes. Let me see if I can do it over here. I'll stop sharing. Oh, there we go. Can you guys see the eye tracking right now?
No.
No? All right, hold on. Where is it? Here we go. Awesome. So I created a tool that's literally tracking my eyes, right? And the cool thing is all this analysis it's giving me. So I show that just as an idea of it's not what you need to do, it's about the possibility of what you can do. Oh my gosh, we're at time. I didn't even realize it. All right, we can't vote on what the most amazing thing is, but if before you go, you want to say, what was the most impactful thing you saw and which one do you think has the most value? So if you want to, before you send off, or you want to email us or LinkedIn us or whatever, which was the most valuable? Which one do you want to dig into more? Mel, you've been awesome. It's always a pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you all so much for attending. Please feel free to connect with me. It's been a great session and great to collaborate with you, Kristen and Josh. I've just really appreciated the time. So
It's always a good time with you both. Thank everyone so much for being a part of ELBX Online. We still have one more day to go. If you'd like to sign up for more sessions, please head over to our website, elblearning.com. You'll see the wonderful little banner up at the top. Click on it and you'll find 3 more sessions for your viewing and your learning pleasure tomorrow. You will receive the copy of the recording tomorrow in your inbox before noon Eastern. And if you don't, reach out to me directly, knos@elblearning.com. Ooh, we do have a couple more questions.
Yep.
Is
I'll
This
just answer. I don't know if HeyGen's better than Synthesia, and I don't know the
Okay.
differences. Not my products, but I should play more with them. Kevin, I'll put the link back into the
Oh,
chat.
here's mine. These are all my apps. More than we went through today. Feel free to peruse
Yeah.
them.
And again, I put all of my links into the GPT that I created, so that one should be sent out.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.